Hey yo, it's your boy Monster Man Rocco.
It's your boy Swagger Rock.
This is Snack the Ripper.
You have to those that don't know.
Master Ace. You are not rocking with the best. Breaking Records Radio.
Breaking Records, man. Radio is like the place to be. I love strange music, man.
All right, you are now tuned in to Breaking Records Radio. My name is Alex, and I have here with me, live from the quarantine, the 2020 War Machine, the rhythmatic Eternal King Supreme, Reks. What's good, my man?
Peace. Thanks for having me on the show, fam.
Man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to speak to us here today. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise.
So you have a new album out here called Things. The Hunger Inside Never Gets Satisfied, and I want to take some time to talk about that new album. I want to spend considerable time talking about that new album in this conversation because I think it's worth it. But I wanted to first kind of start with some of your history. Now, last time we ended up speaking, we talked about some of your history from kind of your first album onwards. However, I'd like to take it kind of a few steps back, if that's okay with yourself, and talk about some of your early roots.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess growing up specifically in Lawrence, because I know Boston ends up getting covered a lot, but specifically growing up in Lawrence, how were you first introduced to hip-hop culture?
I had older cousins who were truly into the culture, and my mom and my aunts, they would always have the record player playing, some of the older sounds, but it was really older cousins who were into breakdancing and into certain records, certain artists like KRS-One, Big Daddy Kane, or Rakim, who kind of like made me, apt to follow in the same footsteps. So I really just wanted to be like my older cousin.
I'm aware that you were a part of a breakdance crew called Funktown Connection. Was that with your cousins at that period of time?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
How did that end up forming?
So, it was just like a vibrant time for hip-hop culture and, the different elements, specifically that part of the culture was vibrant on the streets everywhere. But Lawrence specifically, we would break out the cardboards outside and, we were just out there with the radio, with the boombox outside and, your typical youth moment. So that's really what I was watching my cousins doing their thing, and I just wanted to be down with whatever they were doing. So I just immersed myself in that part of the culture. But obviously I gravitated to what really was a motivation for me, which was picking up the pen and writing.
Fair enough. When we're talking about the breakdance scene that you're a part of there, what era are we talking about? Is this like the mid to late 80s, or is this into the 90s by
this is the late 80s. I want to say it was around 87, 88, and then going into the 90s. That period going into the 90s was when I first really started writing. It was basically right after. I've been writing since I'm 11, 12.
Gotcha. Yeah, that era is fascinating. I study a lot of hip-hop that goes on in Canada, specifically from that era. So I guess as early as maybe early 80s, but going into the early 90s anyhow. And yeah, you see that. I think breakdancing becomes most prevalent at that period of time. And it's really kind of like a cultural...
But that's them, not you.
I don't know, like an important cultural moment, that period of time when the films are coming out like Breakin' and Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo, and that whole kind of scene I think is really important and often overlooked when it comes to hip-hop history.
Trying to wedge in?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was incredible that period in time. Sorry for the break in conversation, but that time and that era and those films were very inspirational for me. Specifically, it was Beat Street that really got my juices flowing as far as writing. The scenario was, I would always be reciting the Christmas rap from Kumo D, and in my schoolyard in the playground, we had this little makeshift stage in back of the elementary school, and I would be sitting there reciting that rhyme till a little girl called me out, and I realized it was time for me to write my own.